Now to the fragile ceasefire between Israel and Iran. After 12 days of attacks, President Trump announced a ceasefire overnight.
But Israel quickly accused Iran of violating the agreement, even gave a timeline as to when missiles were launched at Israel. Iran denies this.
And in this day of electronic communication that's supposed to be so immediate, we still have so many questions left unanswered. Was the strike completely successful? Do we have a real ceasefire? Will it hold? Well, the president just now left for a NATO summit in the Netherlands, and ABC's News senior political correspondent Rachel Scott spoke with the president just before he left. So she joins us now live from Washington. Hi, Rachel. Good that you got a chance to get in a couple of questions. What did we find out?
Good morning to you, Sam. Yes, the president did speak with us right before he left for this G7 summit. And of course, top of mind was whether or not Israel and Iran were violating the ceasefire agreement that the president was touting just yesterday. He was very gleeful about the idea of this. Take a listen to what the president told me when I asked if Israel and Iran are still committed to peace.
You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what they're doing. Do you understand that?
Direct, very blunt language. I will tell you, I've been in a lot of gaggles with the president. I've asked him many questions. I have never heard him take that tone when it comes to talking about our ally Israel. The president clearly frustrated. And then I am told that right after the president boarded Marine One, he also did speak with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. He sent off a very blunt warning via social media telling Israel not to attack Iran. Again, the president determined to try and keep some of the ceasefire intact, guys.
Yeah, I mean, that language, not used to hearing that from the President of the United States. Aside from that colorful language, what else stuck out from these the comments this morning?
Yeah, the president really directing the conversation back to Israel. When I initially asked him if Iran was committed to this idea of peace, given the fact that they then launched an attack on Israel after this agreement was reached, the president directing the language again back to Israel, saying, I'm unhappy with Iran, but I'm even more unhappy here with Israel and the fact and this idea that they were planning to move forward with this attack. The president, I am told, did speak with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on the phone, in which he was very direct about his concerns. He told the Israeli Prime Minister not to move forward with the attacks. The White House believes that the Israeli Prime Minister is heeding that warning. But again, guys, all of this just pointing to just how fragile these negotiations continue to be and the efforts for peace in the Middle East, guys.
Yeah, you have to read the tea leaves here, right? So we're glad you're doing it, Rachel.
All right. Thank you so much.
Now, the big question is, will Israel and Iran stop firing missiles and go back to the ceasefire?
All right, so right now, as you have seen, there's plenty of finger pointing. Neither side's really taking responsibility. The coming hours will tell us if the fighting will actually stop, so we just are going to have to watch it.
ABC's chief international correspondent, James Longman, continues our team coverage live in Erbil, Iraq. James.
Yeah, hi guys. Well, we're watching this ceasefire and seeing whether or not basically it's going to hold. So far, it seems to be. Look, we've watched ceasefires all around the world over the years, not just between Hamas and the IDF, but also Russia and Ukraine. And you see it's a pattern that when a ceasefire is announced, there is a time at which it's supposed to come into effect. And before that, you see an uptick in violence. You just always do. Both sides, it's often as simple as that. They just want to get as many hits in before the allotted time. Donald Trump also knows that. And I think that I saw in him an anger where I feel like he had a sort of a personal stake in the conversations he's been having with the Israelis, knowing full well that this is just part of how a ceasefire comes about. And he felt perhaps that the Israelis were using it in order to then make the argument to increase their attacks on Tehran. I mean, the targets that they had for Tehran were pretty extensive. They were going to launch an extraordinarily large attack in the center of the city. They instead did not do that. They hit just a radar post as a result. So that's a direct intervention from the president, from President Trump, to stop Israel from attacking Tehran. So as far as the Iranians are concerned, I think it's in their interest to keep this one going. They really did think, I think, that regime change was on the cards. They only need to have listened to everything basically every Israeli politician was saying, which was that it's now up to the Iranian people to rise up, to take power for themselves. We're giving them the opportunity. I mean, regime change was not a stated objective of the Israelis in this operation, but it was very much an unstated one. And Donald Trump, for a while, flirted with that idea too. But we know now he doesn't believe that should be what happens in the immediate future. And so the Israelis have pushed back, and the Iranians, I imagine, are breathing a sigh of relief. They have pure and simple survived this particular back and forth, and also been able to say to their domestic audience, to the Iranians, look, we struck back. We hit that American base in Qatar, even though it didn't actually really amount to much. The optics are good for the Iranians. As far as the Israelis are concerned, well, every single one of Benjamin Netanyahu's dreams came true when Donald Trump decided to launch that attack on those nuclear sites inside Iran. Their aerial defenses, we know, have been all but wiped out. We know those American bombers basically saw no resistance when they flew over to Iranian airspace. The Israelis now have operational air control over both Syria and Iran. I mean, they're in a very, very good position. As far as Benjamin Netanyahu is concerned, his political capital has now grown when just before this escalation with Iran, his political future looked very, very delicate indeed. He vacillates back and forth by almost being voted out of office or kicked out of office and then somehow clawing his way back. The feeling in Israel is very much that Iran is a real threat, and so his political popularity will have risen. And then as far as the Americans are concerned, what is the overall goal of the White House of Donald Trump is to get Iran back around that negotiating table so that Donald Trump can stand up in front of the American people and say, I got a deal. And so as we stand right now, all three parties look to be en route to the thing that they want. We'll see if it holds, guys.
Wow, so thorough.
All right. Thank you. ABC's James Longman reporting from Erbil.